Hello and welcome to the Home Assistant Podcast. This is episode number 60. Today we're with Frenck and Phil. Hey Phil.
Hey.
And Frenck, welcome back to the show.
Hey man, how you do?
Good.
This episode is sponsored by Home Assistant Cloud by Nabucasa. Easily and securely access your local Home Assistant instance remotely for a small monthly fee that also supports the Home Assistant project. Configuration is via the user interface, so no fiddling with router settings, SSL certificates, or YAML.
So today we're going to talk about 0.103. We're going to talk about some stuff that Sonos is doing or has done, and we're just going to kind of recap what's going on with you, Frenck. So
a couple of things.
Just a couple?
Yeah, just one or two.
One or two, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
Frenck, it's been 2 years since we had you on the podcast, which is, first of all, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And I think this is episode 60. It's our last episode for the year. 103 is the last release of the year, so it's a nice even number to wrap things up on. Last time we had you on the podcast, you weren't even using Home Assistant, so
yeah, that's correct.
It's gonna be a cool episode, I think.
Well, things changed, so I've been using Home Assistant, that's for sure. But yeah, 2 years. And it was the final episode back then as well.
Yeah.
Of the year.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Like the same time. It's actually 2 years ago.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me.
All right, Rohan, we're going to do it again. But this time I've come up with a new title for this segment. There's a Star Wars movie out, so we're going to call it The Cloud Strikes Back this week. So, Sonos has, and would you believe that our last episode came out November 20th for the last release? That day, Sonos announced that they had bought Snips, which is a popular local voice control product. So basically think of it as an alternative to the Google Home and the Amazon Echo, where you can just have Raspberry Pis and other systems around your house and microphones, and you'll be able to do voice commands for your home. So Sonos announced that they were purchasing that project for the purpose of bringing it into their Sonos speakers. I'm guessing they've got the Sonos One speaker, which has assistants in it already. So they quickly announced within a week that they will be closing down the public access to the console of Snips, which basically is what you would need to use if you wanted to integrate it with Home Assistant. And yes, catch you later, basically. Frenck, I'm going to be really interested to see what your thoughts on this are too. But Rohan, is it really that? Like I said last time, it's that time of year, isn't it? Like everything's closing down.
Yeah, it really is. This month and next month, let's see what's going on. But yeah, I mean, again, we keep talking about this, right? And I'm not sure what the move is. I mean, I could see that Sonos wants to take it, closed source it, and do it that way, and internalize it into their products and keep it exclusive for themselves and say, hey, look, we have the only privacy focused one or something like that. But I mean, as we've talked about last episode, especially, there are some other alternatives, right? So we've talked about Almond as an example, and Frenck, I mean, I'd love to hear your thoughts on.
Almond is actually not a voice system,
right?
So we introduced a thing during the State of the Union called ADA. Depends a bit on where you are, how you pronounce it, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, actually ADA is something that does text to speech and speech to text, because that's the part that Almond doesn't have.
Right.
So ADA listens to the hardware, records the voice, transfers the voice into text, sends it to Almond, which processes it, and the response gets back to ADA, and ADA will do a text to speech again and play it back. So that's the wrapper we added to Almond in that case. So just Almond won't do it. You need ADA for it. But ADA is currently being worked on. It's like really early stage. So is it perfect? Absolutely not yet. And that's kind of cool, actually. For example, since the State of the Union, between the State of the Union and right now, it's possible to plug ADA into your own speech to text integration. So if you're not happy with, for example, Azure Cloud or whatever you want to use, and you want to use a different integration that does the speech to text and text to speech, then that is now possible. So it's a really pluggable system, but it's really early stages at this point. But it's kind of working pretty okay, I guess. And the other alternative that actually comes closest to Snips right now, I think, it would be Raspberry.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because I know there are people out there that do use Snips.
And especially people that may have invested in it as well, buying all the hardware, all the satellite servers to run around the house for it. So it's quite frustrating.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah. So I could see why, the point of frustration there, right? So.
Yeah, and to be honest, I don't think Sonos will be like making this ever like privacy aware. Sonos has a bad track record if it goes on privacy. It's an amazing system, and it's probably one of they support their hardware really well. So it's a really they make really decent quality hardware. So let's be honest, it's a freaking nice thing to go to. But yeah, they're not found on privacy. It's not all local, and they see a lot. You can log into Sonos and see your listening stats. Like, yeah, they know.
Right. So
I'm not sure how the Snips would like integrate like privacy aware in their system. I don't know.
Interesting. Yeah. I guess time will tell.
Time will tell, definitely.
They've still a recent, very fresh acquisition for them, I think. So anyways, on to a little more, hopefully a little more positive stuff. So let's talk about 0.103. So some new stuff coming in. First and foremost, I was actually looking at that. I didn't get a chance to play with it yet, but I looked at it last night, is the automation editor, which now supports YAML.
Amazing.
This is huge. Yeah, I see a huge smile on your face, Frenck. So.
Yeah, it's amazing. Bram did an amazing job there. I've been looking forward to this one. It's just really cool.
I think moving all JSON out of like the developer tools and the whole front end, like removing JSON, is a big move in the right direction, I think. Yes, YAML is still technically JSON in a way, but it's much more user friendly.
Yeah, it's easier to read, easier to like. I don't know. At least in my brain, it's a little more not structured, because I think JSON is structured, and I think that's a problem with it. I think it's a little too structured, whereas YAML, just overall is easier.
What most people do not realize is that JSON is actually compatible with YAML.
Yeah.
So if you have like the YAML fields, which are not all YAML, and some people actually was like, okay, but now I have to do YAML. No, you don't have to. You can just put in JSON, because JSON is YAML compatible. So if you see any field that does YAML now, put in JSON and it will work just as before.
Yeah, so which is awesome. So you kind of have both choices, right?
Yeah.
So which is pretty sweet, I think. Yeah,
absolutely nice. But what I really like about the automation editor is the fact that we now can, like, you can define the automation with your trigger and your conditions and your action, and you can just do the action, just the last bit. You can just jumble that piece, and then all the other pieces you can just select and still use the UI. So
select
you can
from
mix
the drop down
match.
boxes. Yeah.
Which is awesome, because now you got the best of both worlds, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's
and also
fantastic.
I don't know if you guys saw it, but you can also just type in, like, turn on the lights when I get home, and it will try and pre-fill all that now. Like, I played with that for the first time in this release, and was like, yeah, that's awesome. Like, that alone will be really cool for, someone starting out, like, oh, well, how do I put the automation in, right? Like, just type it in, just tell it what you want it to do, and it will try and do the rest for you. Very cool.
Yeah.
Another cool thing to come in this release, and I think we touched on it in the State of Union, but I think it's just got a bit more polish in this release, is you can now create snapshots of scenes through the Home Assistant services. So if you have your home set up, maybe you've got some lights that you want to create a scene from, you can actually now use the Scene Create service and specify the entities that you want to be captured in part of this scene, and then just call the service, and Home Assistant will just see what their state is and save it as a scene. Done. No going into the files or anything like that. Really cool.
Yeah, so it's almost like having a macro to say, okay, capture this and then use that, right? I think we talked about this one a little bit. Maybe it was offline. I don't remember, but To me, this is a good one where, again, when I was setting up something simple like I have a scene called Good Evening, which is, I mean, when it's, turn on all the lights, blah, blah, blah. And, all the lights all the time, 100% gets a little bright in this house. So, especially for nighttime. So, I had like some lights are 30, some at 15. And, it's like, okay, great. Now that I captured all that, I had to take all that and basically move it over to my automation and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now this was great because I can just go, yep. I can just go around the switches, play with what I want, and just basically go click and take a snapshot of that, right? Essentially, and transfer it to a scene, which is great. As long as somebody doesn't go around and turn something else on, like somebody turns on like an exhaust fan or something like that, and it's like, nah, that's part of the scene. Which, outside of that,
now you can exclude it.
Great. Yeah, yeah, that's true. You can
actually use this in automations. Because, well, a lot of the times, at least at my home, things will change. Like, I don't know, my girlfriend thinks the light should be dim more because she feels like it. But you still have automations, right? So you want to do probably maybe a temporary automation, like hitting a notification with the lights. And it's really hard right now because you do not know what the state was before. So this actually allows you to make a snapshot of your current state of things, do your notification thing, and then return the state back to what it was, whatever it was.
Yeah.
In your automations, you don't have to know. So you can create temporary scenes with this.
I use a lot of color in my house for notifications. So, for example, if the dishwasher is clean, all the lights that can change color go pink. So that's, just a visual cue that, hey, the dishwasher is clean, go and empty it, right? As opposed to having announcements coming over and yelling. So it's really cool. Like if maybe I know I use an if hook, so if the Amazon Echo timer goes off, all the lights flash. Maybe sometimes a couple of those lights don't come back to the correct state after they've finished doing their flashing. So now with a scene, I could just go ahead and, snapshot all the lights I'm about to go in and change color for the timer to go off. And then wait 30 seconds, then reset everything back to what it originally was.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be a really cool use case.
Yeah.
Sure.
So also something else coming out, a little bit different, is Proxmox. So I know quite a few people, especially in the home automation community, like to use Proxmox to manage their virtual machines and so on. Essentially now you can integrate that into Home Assistant and you can actually see what containers, what VMs, whatever is running and the status of them as a binary sensor. So are they up? Are they down? What's going on there? So which is, I think, is kind of cool. And I know I think, Phil, I think it was you that kind of had an automation that said, hey, if this dies, or restart Home Assistant, or whatever it is, right? So if you use Proxmox, something like that might actually, you now have a sensor to say, hey, I can actually do this, rather than having to, I don't know how you do it today. Do you SSH in, or do you just say, oh no, you just do a straight blank restart Home Assistant every night or something like that, right?
Well, I do based on Docker containers. So if one of a Docker container is down and it's down for, 15 minutes, then I'll just go in and issue a Docker restart on it.
Right.
Another cool integration for people that want to add some nice graphs to their house is a Flume integration. So it's actually a smart water meter, and it will tell you how much water your house is consuming in real time, and it will now pump that over, no pun intended, into Home Assistant, and you can then see how much water is being used from your house in real time, and I guess you can use it to sort of detect leaks in the house as well. So if you've got all the taps turned off and it's 3 a.m. in the morning and your house is somehow consuming water, the system should be smart enough to be able to tell you, hey, something's leaking, you need to fix that.
Starline integration. So if you're in Russia, I believe, so if you have an active Starline account, which from what I gather is more or less a security system that's available in Russia and possibly other places as well. So please don't assume it's just this is going on my minimal knowledge of Starline. So So if you have an active Starline account, you can actually get Home Assistant to pull information about your car. So the state of the door lock, state of the handbrake, temperature of it, so on and so forth. And you can actually also use it as a device tracker based on kind of where your car is located. Apparently there's got support as well to start and stop the engine. So that's if you're in a colder country like like, I mean, we're coming into winter right now in Canada, and or I guess winter's basically here at this point. You know, if you want to pre-warm up your car, do something like that, which a lot of people do. Now, there's a lot of debate about whether it's a good idea or not, but I'm not going to go into that. But if that is something you need to do, then I guess you could do that here. So
pretty dangerous automation to have. Maybe the car just automatically stop if maybe your home assistant's being a bit frazzled at home and you're driving down the freeway at 100 k's an hour, and all of a sudden an automation ticks on at home and it tells you to stop the car. Might be a bit awkward.
Yeah, as you're driving down the highway, just right. Yeah, it might be, you may not want to have all the services in there. So, and from a security perspective as well. Again, I don't know if it can actually unlock your door, or just say if the door is unlocked or not. And it sounds like it's just a state that it reports back and doesn't actually do anything like that. But yeah, just play with it, and hopefully it's not too insecure.
Hopefully.
I think it would be like the same thing for the apps, right? So they have apps, I assume.
Yeah.
So it should be like, I think it would be thought through.
Yeah.
It's not a new newbie on the block or something.
Yeah. And it does sound like it's just a state that it reports. So
yeah, maybe
the door lock isn't as much of an issue, but being able to turn off your car remotely might be, right? Depending on what you do. So
all right, some breaking changes. This is the final release for the year, final release for the decade, and it also means it's the final release that's going to support Python 3.6. So Frenck, have we got 3.8 support done then? If we're deprecating 3.6, are we 3.8 ready, good to go?
No, 3.8, some people are already running on 3.8, so apparently it kind of works. But yeah, we're still working on the 3.8 part. So that is not finished yet. Maybe for the next release, I'm not sure. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, we have to announce the deprecation of 3.6 to follow our own set of rules.
Yep.
As long as it works in the next release, that's fine. But if things stop working, then, well, at least we inform people, right? So that 3.8 is coming really soon. And 3.6, yeah, this will be the last release that absolutely is tested and works with the 3.6. That's basically it.
So what are the rules that Home Assistant's got? So if someone's manually installing Home Assistant today, they don't believe in Docker or anything like that, and they're running 3.7, what's the rule for when will that be determined to be deprecated?
We used to have a rule where we followed Debian. Whatever they did, that was the lowest version. But then Debian actually started doing some good things, and they just jumped to Python 3.7, and we were like, okay, but we do not want to drop 3.6 yet. We're barely ready for 3.7. So at that point, that rule that we had didn't work. So what we come up with is we supported the last two major versions of Python. So 3.8 is now the stable major version. So that means 3.8 and 3.7 are the supported versions. However, as soon as it's released, we give, I think, 2 release cycles time. I might be incorrect on this one, but something like that. So we start, as soon as the new version comes out of Python, we start to announce it. And then we have a couple of cycles, and then we'll deprecate it. So always the last 2 versions with 2 release cycles overlap, I think.
Right.
Which makes sense. I'm guessing if there's 2 versions of Python that are in production, you're basically making sure that you only have to support those 2 versions, as opposed to having to support 3 or 4 versions of Python at a time. You're announcing this is what we support, and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and 2 version is pretty okay. Like most things work with this, and especially if you're running Docker or Has.io, in those cases, we ship the Python with the image. So you can be assured there's nothing for you here to see. It's just, it will be working. That's for sure.
Yeah. And that's one of my favorite things about the Docker image is that I don't have to deal with Python versions. I don't have to deal with any of that stuff. Right.
Yeah.
So same with from a Has.io perspective, because it does use Docker under the covers. Don't need to worry about it.
Those are the same images nowadays. Actually.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah.
So also another breaking change is so there are changes to service names. So as part of a larger overhaul, and we've kind of seen this in the last few releases as well, in the previous releases. Check the release notes before you update. There are a bunch of platforms that are affected in terms of services names and stuff like that. So just make sure you're following that.
It's a really big list, and I was surprised. I actually went through every single one to make sure that I just did a global find and replace, and I was very pleased to find out that I didn't have one service that was affected. Somehow I missed that. But yeah, there is
Nice.
a lot in this release. I think it's the biggest one we've seen for a release, because we've seen many this year, but I think that this release is just huge. So there's bound to be a few, especially for you, Rohan, you've got to have at least one in there.
Yeah, I should look.
Well, these are the kind of things that people become a bit mad over, right? Like all those breaking changes and why and all those questions. But these are the important ones to do for things like being 1.0. Right now, the services could be like in the light domain, or it could be in the integration name. Like, I don't know.
Yep.
I think I wrote an example in the release notes about Todoist. At first it was like calendar.todoist new task, and now it's Todoist.new task, and that makes a lot of more sense. And in the past it was like mixed, like it was everywhere. It could be on the integration, it could be under its light or calendar component somewhere, you didn't know. So right now it's just clear where it is. It's with the integration always, and that's really important to streamline for things like 1.0.
Right.
So even though it's a breaking change, it's a good thing. It makes things easier and understandable and predictable.
No, yeah, I agree. And this kind of stuff, again, before upgrading anything, really, you should be, best practices, read the notes, read the release notes, stuff like that. If there's stuff missing, then that's a different issue. But, I think Home Assistant's been pretty decent, actually, with documenting, here's all the changes, blah, blah. I mean, Phil and I go through it every release. So it's, I think, yeah, just make sure you read the blog posts that the team puts out.
And probably an annoying breaking change this release, if you are still using the emulated hue component that ships with Home Assistant, they've had to make some changes to the backend just to be consistent with the standard of the emulated hue component. So from this release, you're going to have to go in, probably delete your entities from the hue JSON file that will be in your configuration folder, and then unfortunately you're going to have to go ahead and relink all your devices with your Amazon Echo and Google Home. The reason is that a lot of the entity IDs that were being generated by Home Assistant were actually being, in some cases, incompatible with the standard, which meant you couldn't link, depending on the entity ID name, you couldn't link them with either the Amazon Echo or Google Home. So moving forward, these are now coming as part of that standard, and you should be able to just, once you've repaired them, you shouldn't have to worry about this in the future.
And last one is if you use the MiFlora integration, then they'll now report states as unavailable. So what that means is if your MiFlora hasn't reported in for a bit, essentially what will happen is that the values will be set to unavailable. So you basically know that either your battery's dead or something else is up, which is, I think, is great. So
I think I have so many of these devices that I don't know if they're up or down. I just see them.
Yeah.
I assume that data is still accurate because they're Bluetooth, right? They just check in whenever they want to check in, basically. So that's a cool little add-on.
Yeah. To your point, one of the big issues I have with it, because I just have it working on a Raspberry Pi Zero. That's just polling all of my my Flora devices, but exactly, I've got two that are blank. And I guess since my last reset, they just haven't updated. So I gotta, I need to go look. And this is how I know that stuff is broken, right? So this unavailable state will help quite a bit. So as much as it's classified as a breaking change, I think it's actually really good. So if you have any automations and stuff around that, it's probably why it is a breaking change, because it will break that. But it's definitely a good thing.
And one noteworthy update that I was really excited to see buried in the release notes is that the Amazon Echo now supports opening and closing covers or blinds. So, for example, you can now say to your little lady friend, set the office blinds to open or set the office blinds to closed. Previously, the open and closed keywords have been reserved by Amazon for safety. They don't want people just being able to yell out close and someone's neck is underneath it when the garage door closes or whatever. Mm-hmm. But there is a workaround, so it does need, and I tested it today, it really needs that set to be in the phrase, so you can't just say, hey Amazon, open the office blinds. You have to say, hey Amazon, set the office blinds to open. So it's closer, it's not perfect, but it's really cool to be able to have that proper voice control. There's no jargon of, hey Amazon, tell Home Assistant to do this, sort of thing. It's much easier to do.
So how I got around it for the last, I guess, the better part of a year is I actually brought it in as a switch, or as a binary switch. So it's a little more annoying.
But you have to say, on or off, right?
Right. So, just again, little getting used to, but both of us now, I think, just say, hey, turn on the whatever, turn off the whatever, right? So turn on the garage door, right? Which basically means open it. And it was a path of least resistance for me to just, great, it's there. I don't care. It works, whatever, right? Is it ideal? No.
Could you use a routine to override the voice command? Like, could you have in the Amazon Echo app, set a routine when I say this, switch on the garage door?
Do this. I don't know, actually. I guess so, because I did this before routines were a thing in the app. Right. And honestly couldn't have been less bothered to change it. But now I think that's not a bad idea. I might have that just as a second option, so I can kind of do both. Say turn on or open. But yeah. Also, so another noteworthy update: Lutron now has support for fans. So if you've got a Lutron switch with a fan, cool, go for it.
There you go. And in some related news, Home Assistant for Android version 1.2 is released, and it now includes push notifications directly to the app. So really cool to see the Android version coming along nicely. Yeah. I think I'm going to officially move over, get rid of my little HTML shortcut, get the proper app running. So yeah, if you're relying on that, you can get rid of HTML5 notifications and use native push notifications from the app now.
That's awesome. Yeah, and if you also haven't seen, and we talked about it last time as well, on the iOS side, the iOS app is now technically out of beta, the 2.0 app. So if you're using the integration and still or haven't updated it, it's actually really cool. So Frenck, now it's all about you.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
So I mean, let's get right to it. We all heard that you're starting at Nabukasa, and your first week is, I guess, now officially done, kind of.
Yeah, 2 weeks now.
Right,
it's my
2
second
weeks.
week.
Yeah. So how was week number one?
It is getting used to it. I need to get used to it. It's really it has been cool, by the way. That's for sure. But this is for me, this is a big lifestyle change.
Sure.
So that's I'm looking for how to handle this all. Like we talked before the show a bit with Phil and I. Like before, you could go to work and then come home with the kids and you eat something, and then, well, it's Home Assistant time for me at that point. Right now, that's gone. So the work part is gone. Like, this is still work. It's now my job, but it's at home. So the line between my private life and my job now is really thin.
Sure.
It became really thin, and I need to work on like finding my way in that. But it has been great. I've been doing things these weeks with that I have been putting off a long time. So that's kind of nice, and I'm looking forward to this time. But this is a weird month. It's December. Like, we all have holidays and things going on.
Yeah.
Paul's is traveling. So right now we're focusing on cleaning things up, just handling pull requests, bug fixes, and those kinds of things. Just make a good end. And next year, in January, we'll see. We're going to do some nice things. the cool thing about Nabokasa, it's now really becoming a team.
Yeah, you are like, there's 4 of you now, all spread across the globe, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as a team, we are able to put some nice things together. Like, it's not just solo runs. We can now talk and discuss on how we going to approach things and how maybe we're going to do something together. So that's something there as well.
Yeah.
So that's nice.
So what are you thinking, end of the year, you're going to have a break in a couple of weeks. What's your plans for 2020? Have you got anything that you want to, you've had in Frenck HQ there, you've just got to knock out?
Well, for me, it's actually, weird enough, it's a documentation. And it's not, I've been working on documentation a lot last year, mainly not in writing like the actual content, but like structuring and cleaning up the code base and making sure the thing builds and runs quick and making it easier to contribute to, those kinds of stuff. And I'm really looking forward to just jump in and do something about the structure, since the structure of the website and our documentation is, well, it's old. The website is 4 years old now, and we've grown so much. Like, the current structure doesn't fit what we do right now. So I've been restructuring a bit, and I had a lot of help from the community, and I'm looking forward to make like a bigger leap there. So that's something for me personally that I would like to dive into. Secondly, add-ons. I think, like, I have a lot of them. I can maintain them more. I wanted to create a couple, actually, but I also want to improve like the experience for the current ones. It would be really cool if, for example, an add-on that needs MySQL to connect to can actually just figure out with MySQL itself, like, okay, how do I connect to you, the other add-on, without people to have to input data. Some other stuff we're working on is like, if you install, I don't know, if you install the AdGuard add-on, like Home Assistant will pop up and say, hey, we discovered you installed the add-on, do you want to install the integration, and single click. I think we can expand that with more stuff. So those are the things that are on top of my mind, like just making the experience and for new users, also existing users, more easy. Yeah. That's kind of the theme for State of the Union as well, right? So that's the theme for the UI, and that's the theme we're running at right now, making it easy.
And especially if you're heading towards that goal of 1.0 and trying to get, make it easier for everyday user to get on board and not have to worry about the technical side of things.
To be honest, like, this is my second week. I'm trying to get used. I'm not sure where we're going to land in 2020. So these are like my personal ideas right out from the top of my head. But yeah, where we're going, I don't know. We're going to talk about it, I'm sure. And there's a lot of things we could do. The question is, what should we do? And that's a different discussion. Yeah. So what does this mean for live streams? Nothing. Okay, good. So you're still going to keep doing them. You're still... Yeah. That was a little bit of a brain fart there. The live streams. Yeah, I don't know. Just one day I thought, well, I don't know, maybe I can hit play. I looked at Twitch a couple of times and I saw some coders coming up there and I think, hey, I can do that. Maybe that's something people will want to watch, or I don't know. We'll see. And it exploded somehow a bit. And I've been doing it ever since, and will continue to do so. That's awesome. I like it. The communication with the people watching and the chat is just fun. Yeah. I like how like 10 people will go in the chat nuts on the fact you make a typo. It's just it's fun. I like it. That's so But funny. They have ideas, and that's something to listen to. Yeah, for sure. And I love your opening theme too. And you and I have talked about this several times. But your opening theme is honestly the best. It's too loud. It's a little bit stressful, but it's energetic. And that's the thing. I play music during my streams, for example, which is a little bit weird. Like, a lot of people don't know the music I use, and still it's really energetic, and people are requesting me a lot for the song. So now in the image there is a little bar with the current song I'm playing, so people can find it because it's mostly weird. Oh, that's cool. But it's just, I don't know, it gives me energy. I like doing it. I haven't been streaming a lot lately, and it has mainly to do with my closing job, this new thing coming up.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff I had to take care of, so streaming was hard lately. But right now I'm picking up slowly. Last stream was last Tuesday with Paulus and Bram. They were here in my home, so we did a stream from my couch here in the living room, and we did a Q&A. It's kind of nice.
That's awesome.
Actually. Yeah.
Oh man, that's a lot of fun. So I'm glad that's something you enjoy. I'm glad that that's something, it's almost lets you let go of other stuff, whatever stresses and stuff, right? And just focus on this and do that. And like you said, it's a good mechanism for people to give feedback as well, right? On what you're doing and a little bit of validation on your stuff as well. So
yeah, and I initially started like, if people can see how easy it is to build an add-on, maybe more people will jump into it. That was actually my initial thought. But okay, that train went detoured a bit, and we're doing all kinds of stuff now. So I don't know. It's just fun. I like your interaction. That really gives me like energy. It's fun to do.
Yeah, and I think the cool part too is I think because you record some of the stuff as well, and basically make tutorials out of it, right? So I actually followed something that was so my Home Assistant instance is now structured similarly to yours because I was just watching through stuff, and I was like, I know I pinged you about it too, but I was watching through some of your videos, and I was like, man, I really like the way that is, that how you've organized it. And I was like, because in my mind, like that is super logical, using packages and using this and this and this, and like, keeping things very structured, right? And whereas my old config was kind of all over the place. So
I've been playing and tinkering with that structure a lot until I was happy and satisfied. And then somehow it came up during a stream, and I just started explaining, and later I just cut that piece out. I was like, okay, this is kind of cool maybe for somebody else. And I've seen tons of repositories on GitHub that did now this configuration change.
Yeah.
Which is kind of nice to see and kind of cool. It was a different kind of approach. It was never meant to be as a copy thing. It was meant to be as a, look, you don't have to do what's in the documentation. You can structure it your own way, however your mind works. But yeah, that's apparently not how it works. People will just go in and do fork my repo actually, and then change the devices in it.
Oh, that's funny.
But yeah, Home Assistant is really flexible. And this was kind of the thing that I never see people doing. People were following documentation in this part. They did either the packages stuff or the monolith that you get when you start out.
Yeah.
But you can just tune it. That was the whole message behind it. That little fit.
Which I loved, right? So I think, in my mind, it's more efficient for me to do it this way. So I'm doing it this way. So,
well, glad you like it.
So I guess this brings us to back to where, Home Assistant is. And so last time we left you, you were just creating basically Hasso add-ons, not using Home Assistant. You're like, oh, what's this thing? Home Assistant, I don't know. I just do Hasso add-ons. I don't know what that is. So now I'm guessing you know what Home Assistant is, and you've started using Home Assistant. They've obviously hired you for a reason. So can we talk about your smart home? And surely you've got the addiction now and everything's automated. I can see a Christmas tree behind you. I'm guessing that's got to have some cool automation to it.
Yeah, it has ESP Home. I love ESP Home, by the way. Absolutely. No, it's a Tuya plug, which I converted with ESP Home. That thing is just nice. But simple. Those are simple LEDs with just on-off white light. I do not have a major matrix in my tree with pixels and X-lights and stuff. I see that a lot right now. That's too much for me. That's not going to work.
Yeah.
But about my house and the things I automate and do, I have a lot of Home Assistant running nowadays, like mainly test systems and production and dev and testing. So I have actually, I don't know, I think 10 instances or something. But one instance is my main production instance. What do I do with it? I have decons, a lot of IKEA and Philips Hue stuff. I love those Zigbee. I love Zigbee stuff. I have a couple of C-Wave. My thermostats are all C-Wave. I have a Tone thermostat on the wall, which is typical Dutch, I guess. It's only available in the Netherlands, Belgium, and Spain, I guess. But yeah, I have a robot vacuum, and it's mainly lights, actually. And to be honest, in the end, like, I'm still fiddling around with things, trying things out, and developing. And actually, my Home Assistant is always in a state that it's broken or half baked or not moving forward, because I'm thinking, I'm going to fix this first. I'm going to improve this first before I can start using it. And then the list grows and goes on. And then, well, I'm back to the problem where we initially talked about 2 years ago. Am I using Home Assistant? Yeah, yes, I could say yes now, but it's at the same time, I don't give myself the time to actually use it myself, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, yeah. Are you doing any interesting automations with those things, or just kind of they're just there? Like, what are you doing?
Well, the most interesting automation that I have, like the two most useful ones I have, are really simple. One is when the alarm gets armed. I have an alarm system in my home that works with Home Assistant.
Okay.
As soon as it arms, then it knows the state, if we're armed home or armed away. So in case of armed away, it will know, okay, let me turn off the lights and turn down the heatings in the rooms. And I think that's just pretty useful. It saves energy. You don't have to think about it. And we actually do not think about it. Like, it hasn't worked one time, and then we came home and we're like, okay, all the lights are on. What's going on? We don't care about lights and those kinds of things anymore, because it just works.
Yeah.
And my other automation would be like simply the central ventilation system of my house. I used a couple of Sonos devices to make my current ventilation system smart. Loaded up with ESP Home, and they were now actually in my system as a fan. And as soon, for example, if I take a shower in the morning and the humidity goes up, it will detect it and will just turn on the ventilation and will turn it down again or off when, like, every humidity level is normal again there. And that's actually useful, because in the morning we used to go like, okay, I'm going to take a shower, I will turn on the ventilation. Then you go out of the shower and you think, yeah, it's still, the humidity is high. So you go away to work, and then you come home and the thing is still like...
Still running full blast.
Still running. And that's just a waste of energy. So that's one of those two are actually my most useful automations. How simple they are, they just work and are really helpful.
Yeah.
So have you automated the arming and disarming of your alarm panel with like presence?
Nope.
Any particular reason why? Do you use presence detection, or you just use it based on the alarm state?
Just the alarm state. That's enough for me. And I'm not... And the integration that I use, and that's very sure. And the user that is hooked up to Home Assistant has no rights to turn on and off the alarm. So I even if I wanted to from Home Assistant, I cannot do it, because the user I created for it doesn't have the rights.
Yeah.
This is something where there's a lot of discussion going on, like locks and alarm systems. I'm the type of guy, while I love all this stuff, this is where my border is. This is where I draw the line. No, you're not touching my alarm system. You're not touching my locks. Yeah. You can see the state. That's fine. You can automate on that. But no, not...
No, you're not setting. You're not unlocking your door. You're not... Yeah.
Nope.
I'm guessing that means you don't have the ability to, as a good night routine, you don't have the ability then to lock the house down. So house won't lock all the doors for you when you say go to good night.
No, we don't.
Interesting. Okay.
We just lock the doors, old-fashioned.
Yeah.
And then I arm the alarm, old-fashioned. And because it reacts on states we have. Like, if I arm the alarm, it will know we're going to bed or not. Like, if I arm the downstairs floors, it will know we're going to bed. So it's actually, I use the alarm system as a trigger to do things.
Right.
So I use the MQTT alarm panel. Similar thing, right? So when the alarm panel is disarmed, someone is home, and when it's, goes into night mode, we're asleep and, and all that. But I automate it with our presence on our phones, and that way the alarm panel, because I have some Fire HD tablets around running fully kiosk with Home Assistant up on Lovelace, if a guest comes over and they need to, tell the house, that someone's home, they can just use it as an alarm panel, punch in a code, and then all the automations that are driven off that alarm panel being disarmed then kick in. So, guests have the ability to have presence in their house as well. So I can see your point, like, the alarm panel knows what the state of the house is, right? So, but yeah, I would have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see your point. No access. I don't want them being able to disarm my alarm panel and all that. But I don't know. It is cool to get home and not have to worry. Like the door unlocks. And
It's not like you can ignore it. As soon as you open the door, the thing starts beeping the hell out of you. So it's I don't know.
Yeah.
It is a thing. We're used to it, and for us it works. And I just do not feel comfortable having my stuff, like my automation stuff. Like I trust the system, but I do not trust like the world.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I can't say I blame you. I think I'm similar with that with certain things. Again, especially both physical and network security wise, right? I think I'm kind of the same. Okay, let's drop some walls and let's figure out what's what, and then least privilege, right? Is
yeah. I use a lot of different networks in my home as well, just to like put devices in networks where they do not have internet access, like CCTV cameras, or I don't know, I have guest LAN and I have my private Wi-Fi, and I have different networks running just to isolate stuff.
Yeah.
And even prevent devices to going online.
Yeah. Or the other way, prevent devices or allow only devices to go right out instead of being able to talk inside too, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So, but yeah, no, that's awesome. So you're, from a presence perspective, you said you're basically just using the alarm panel to say, hey, we're home, we're not.
Yeah.
And all of that stuff. So are you also using any voice assistants or anything like that? Like, do you have a Google Home?
Yes, I have the search engine devices. The Google devices. And mine triggered right now. So yeah, I got some hubs and on the weirdest places. I have one on my bathroom actually. When I take a shower in the morning, I love to say good morning, and it will read me the news and play some music and tunes. And the kids love it as well, by the way. But yeah, we mainly voice control everything.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's funny because I had so I'm primarily on the Amazon ecosystem, but I have the Googles in my bathrooms as well, and that was just stuff because I didn't have Googles at the time, and my this is before the girlfriend moved in with me, so I was like, I need to play with this. I got her some Google Homes. And then she moved in, so now I'm like, what do I do with these? So I have them plugged into and just mounted on the wall, and yeah, so it's great. So to turn on the exhaust fan, like stuff like that. Like if you forget to turn it on when you're showering and all that stuff, it's like, okay, great, just yell it. It's handy.
So guys, Christmas is coming up, right?
That's right.
And there's a new decade coming in, huh?
it is, yes.
So what I would like to know, and I think I asked this question in episode 16, 2 years ago, what would you like to have from Santa under your tree for your home automation stuff? What would be your ultimate wish that should be in a package under your tree?
As in a product that exists, or it doesn't exist, and it would.
I didn't
be
specify, so surprise me.
That's this is a tough one. Yeah. Huh. We're both stumped.
I would like to have like curtain rails, which I on Zigbee or Z-Wave or something. Just because I have a massively long window in my living room, which is 11 meters almost. That's a long curtain, so I need a bit of track. It's a long track.
Yeah.
So that's something I wish for. Actually, to be honest, my wife wishes for it a very long time. She's been nagging me about it. She actually loves all the home automation stuff. So I'm kind of like, I hope I have this as a present because A, it's cool to do and work with, and B, the nagging stops. Yeah, that would be my ultimate gift for this year under this tree. So that would give you guys some time to think.
Interesting. I think for me, it's something around BLE. And a better way to integrate BLE. Like I hate BLE, to be quite honest. No, I don't hate BLE. I hate the way that it's very 1-to-1, or like there's that pairing that it needs. Not pairing, but it's passive. I don't know how to explain it. Just the whole structure of how BLE is done is very crappy. I think what I would love to have is just a new BLE system where I don't have to deal with that. And what does that mean? I have no idea. I just know that every time I have to deal with either my Xiaomi Mi Flora devices or anything else like that, and that's actually a big reason as to why I haven't done a ton of stuff in terms of room presence with my phone and stuff. Is just because I honestly couldn't be bothered with BLE.
I can
just
see.
to put the effort in, right? It's a lot of effort for not a lot of reward. I think. Yeah, better BLE without the constraints of BLE. How's that?
Dear Santa, please deliver BLE to Rohan.
That's right.
Okay, man. Phil, what about you?
So I'm in this predicament where I'm only renting, so I can't go ahead and do all these crazy changes to the house. So that means I can't do crazy things like, changing the locks and making them smart or anything like that. I've got most of the curtains or the blinds automated with the Soma devices and a couple of the Brunts, so they're done. That's fine. I would think the where I struggle is outside of my house. There's no electricity, and I would love to do like some automated landscape lighting. But the problem is everything that could be done is either solar, and let's face it, they're not very bright at all, so they hardly light up anything. I'd love to have like the Philips Hue outdoor, colored lights and all that I could automate. It's clear here it has to be automated. I don't want, just a dumb automation. I want it hooked into Home Assistant somehow. So, some sort of outdoor lighting that I could control through Home Assistant and it not require electricity outside. I don't think it exists. Maybe it does, and someone can maybe put it under my tree for me. That'd be great. Santa, looking at you. But, that's where I'm at. I think inside the house I've sort of conquered. Outside the house is where I'm struggling to conquer now.
Couldn't you just charge a battery with solar and then
I mean, you could.
You could buy a Tesla Powerwall, a little bit of overkill, but the concept.
But you can't mount the Powerwall because it's a rented house.
Oh.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I could, but then I don't want big batteries just hanging out. And it needs to be neat, right? I don't want a big battery in my garden bed.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. You're probably right. I could do something like that. But then, is it worth it? Then when I move, I'm going to have to pack it all up and it's not going to fit the next place. And
yeah, it'll be too custom for this release, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, dear Santa, bring Phil electricity to his garden.
Exactly.
That's the message, right?
That's right.
Because it's not just lighting. You could do like irrigation controllers and all that. Like I think there's a lot out there that you could automate as well.
Yeah. Well, it's fun. I think it was with you, Phil, that I was talking about kind of like what I want to do in my backyard and all of that stuff. And
yeah, because you were doing your patio deck or something.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to just basically redo my entire backyard. I got 0% of it done. I got
awesome.
I got a little bit done. I got a tree. So there was a tree right in front of my building, which was starting to kind of dig at my foundation, and that was a very expensive fix. So I had to get that. I couldn't get it moved, so I had to get it removed. So so I've gotten that done, and then now that also cleared up a bit of space, and now I need to basically rip up all the grass in the spring and level out the ground and do all that stuff. But I think I still do want to do a bunch of that stuff. But I mean, I don't have the constraints you do because it's the property itself is mine, right? Not rented. So, but I actually need to do something. So dear Santa, can you also just do my backyard for me? That would be great. But yeah.
Nice. Yeah. This is going to be a great year. New decade, by the way.
New decade.
Which is a new decade.
I know.
So it'll be. Let's see what it's got in store for us.
I don't know. I hope a lot. What would be something you would like to have in store, like in automation world? Like not necessarily like things you want to have under your tree, but what would you hope for in the upcoming decade in the smart home world?
I think just more man, I don't want to sound like a buzzword, but something a little more intuitive, right? Because even right now, all the context is still more or less programmed in, whereas I think just understanding stuff. So kind of where, again, I hate to use the AI, ML, whatever buzzword.
Is it a buzzword? I don't think so.
I think in the context I want to use it in, it's not.
Okay.
But
That's the point.
But I think I don't want to, because there's a lot of people that are like, oh yeah, this is AI, and it's like it's not. It's just it's a bunch of for statements, and that's it. Or sorry, if statements, and that's it. And so I think properly true context around how I use my house, learn how I use my house, and then around that you build the automations.
Yeah, especially that one. It should be like that, like intelligence, machine learning, AI kind of level where it notice that every time you go out, you push the button to turn on the backyard lights.
Yeah.
So at some point, you should open up the door and the system should think, well, I turn on the lights for you, mate.
Right. Exactly.
Something like that. I don't know. Sounds a bit scary.
But actually works. Yeah. Yeah. That too, right? And how do you keep all of that? That's the other thing. How do you keep all of that stuff local? Because that particularly wouldn't want to be something that I want to expose out either, right? So, but
I think if we're pontificating about where the next decade is going to take us, I would hope, and I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but I'm hoping that the next decade would see a move away from cloud dependency. Yeah. I think it has just it's like the great sin of the smart home has been to rely on the cloud. And Rohan and I, we talk about this, every episode, basically, when a service shuts down, and, we saw it today with Sonos and Snips, like, we need to just move away from the cloud and put things back in the home and, not create all these silos and subscription models. Like, I shouldn't need to pay a monthly fee to access my doorbell, so...
Oh, I know.
That's where I hope in this decade things... and I'm guessing I'm starting, like, if you look in the big picture, we're seeing a lot of revolt, like the anti-Google movement, people saying, get rid of Google, let's, host your own email server and all that sort of thing. And, people are big, especially since Cambridge Analytica, we're being a lot more privacy focused. Yeah. And I hope that translates over into the smart home and people start realizing that, we do have these eavesdropping devices that are just data collectors. Like, that's why our Google Home is so cheap, is because, they want our data.
Absolutely.
And I hope that, sorry, I'm getting on my high horse here, but I do hope that, the next decade, we step away from that and don't go further down that path.
I think it's inevitable for companies in the end. Like, people will stop accepting stuff. Like for Google and Facebook and those kinds of big companies and the Amazons, like, they don't have to worry that much. But it's all those little manufacturers and that if they want to be like a difference, and if they want to make a difference in the market, then local control is probably one of the things to do. And you see it happen a lot. Like, a lot of small manufacturers like Shelly, for example, is a good example at this point. Yep. Giving people local control is just a thing, and we all love it, and that makes them sell stuff, and then they will grow, and then the question becomes, will they still offer local control? And for things like currently, I'm a bit worried about Wink. I hear things about Wink. It's not a thing here in the Netherlands. Yes. I do not have it, but it's probably one of the great examples that people have issues with their platform because Wink have unstable servers, and the rumors are it's not going well with the will.i.am company that is now Wink.
Yeah, and I think so. Let me ask you guys this then. So then, do you see, so in Europe, Frenck, you probably have a very different lens because Europe as a whole is a lot more privacy focused, is a lot more like making sure you as an individual are protected, right? Whether you realize it or not. I think And you see that with some of the stuff like GDPR and whatever other stuff that kind of comes across. But we don't, like, honestly, I don't know if I'm seeing that in North America, right? And before I'll, there's, I know I'm going to get like 6 emails going. Actually, I think I agree that it is. I don't think it's where it should be, right? Like, for example, DuckDuckGo. I think it's a great service instead of using Google, instead of doing all that stuff. But is it mainstream? In my opinion, no. Because at the end of the day, when I still go to, my friends that aren't technical or that aren't privacy savvy or anything like that, or I mean, even if I go to my parents, right? Hey, what search engine do you use? They use Google, right? And so I don't think it's as prevalent here or as widespread here as it is.
I think in Europe, it's like, I feel at one point I think it's good. I'm happy it's there and like protecting my privacy. Although I myself, like, I stream and you can look at my computer and me, and I don't know how much my privacy is worth at this point, but the in general, I'm happy with the laws. But
yeah,
the other side of it is that, like, every freaking thing has to be confirmed and done. And for example, if you look at the average news site nowadays, you come in and you get and for Europe, you get a cookie wall. You have to agree to the cookies and you can select which cookies for which goals. And then you go on and then you will get a notice about like your privacy stuff and probably, I'm using AdGuard as the add-on. So it will tell something about me blocking advertising, which they rely on, and if I want to deblock it. So if I'm getting rid of that notification, I will get a notification if I want to receive notifications for updates, like in your browser and the HTML5 pop-ups and stuff. And then you click that one away. And then, you scroll the article and then you cannot read it all because you have to sign in or subscribe or, I don't know, they want you to do something before you can read the rest. And they lost me at step 1.
Yeah. And that's definitely the challenge of it, right? I don't think there's a perfect. How do you get consent without asking for consent constantly, right? But I think it's also people are like, hey, I really want you to sign up for my whatever, and to some extent I get it. That's your business. That's what you got to do, right? So. Yeah,
okay, that's okay. But for the larger part, it's just annoying and nobody reads it anymore. So it doesn't get like the goal. It's like, are you sure question on your computer?
Yeah,
like,
great.
If you get it constantly, you will just hit the button and you have no clue what you're doing.
Yeah.
It has no effect. And that's kind of we're detracking right now, by the way.
So hard. Yeah.
This is what we do. This is what we do.
So but that's annoying right now with all the laws, and I'm happy with things like Home Assistant to be able to more in control of that data, and I'm happy to be able to select my devices to be in local control. I love Zigbee for that reason. I'm not using the U bridge. I'm not using the IKEA bridge, for example. I use a decon stick.
Yeah,
I know my light data is local and my control is local.
Yeah. And I mean, at its most basic, if your internet goes out, it still works.
Yeah.
Right. And then, but on top of that, there's, if the service tomorrow decides to decommission itself, or not, it's not going to decommission itself. If whoever's running the service decides to decommission the service, as we saw earlier, we talked about Snips, and I mean, we've seen it with Logitech, we've seen it with tons of people. That's less of an issue.
Yeah. So
anything else on your hit list, Frenck?
On my hit list?
Yeah, on your list of questions.
Questions back for us.
Well, the easiest question is, if I would build you an add-on, what would it be, right? Like, being like the guy who said in the last episode, he is the App Store, which made me laugh really hard, by the way. That's kind of cool. I love that. So if I could build you an add-on, like, you guys are not using Has.io, I think. Phil is Docker. Rohan.
I use both. My Zigbee radio is on a Has.io Raspberry Pi.
Okay.
But my main is Docker.
So assume in this case, Phil, you're running Hasio. What would you love to see as an add-on?
The problem is there are so many add-ons that you've created that whatever I think that I would like as an add-on, you've probably already created it. For example, I'm thinking, like, I'm looking at the containers that I use myself now, and, you know, I've got Grafana and, you know, Sonar,
Check.
Radar, all that. You've already done it, right? Like, so I'm just trying to think, what add-on are you missing? And I don't think you are missing any. And I don't think I have a need for a container from you just yet.
Okay.
So I think I've got one for you. And it's not it's the integration itself already exists. I just want easier, nicer, whatever you want to call it. I think is better integration with calendar. So I can actually build my scheduling of doing certain things within Google Calendar or something like that, and then make exceptions with that, right? So like for example, if you know it's a public holiday, great. It'll pull in my local calendar for me here in Toronto, Canada, right? Because we have provincial, certain days might fall certain things, and depending on the provincial rule, national rules, whatever, right? For statutory holidays. So based on that, you know, okay, chances are I'm going to be home, blah, blah, blah. So don't run these automations or run these. So nicer kind of a calendar integration, let's call it. So, and I know there's iCal support today, and I know there's, I believe there's Google Calendar support today as well. But
yes.
Instead of me having to actually script it all out and do all of that, like a nicer package. I don't know what that looks like, but
it's like, I feel like you're asking for a scheduler.
I am asking for a scheduler, but based on you know, whatever calendar app, right?
Okay.
Not
I'm not sure if that's going to be. I know there's being worked on by. I'm not sure who's building it at this point, but I know there's being worked on a scheduling kind of backend for Home Assistant. So there's coming something there. I don't know. Maybe that's useful.
So, Rohan, I do what you're after, basically, with Google Calendar as it is. So, Home Assistant has the Workday Sensor, and you specify your province, and from there it will note those, public holidays and stuff. I then I use that as one part of a binary sensor. And then another half, I have it look at one of the calendars. And then, for example, if I take holidays, I will just add an all-day event to a calendar that's annual leave. And then the house knows, is it a work day or is it not a work day? And that's basically, the Boolean for me. So if it's a weekend or an annual leave day, they're the same to me. Yeah. Same with the public holiday. So that's how I get around it. And then I just have to make sure that I put in my annual leave in that calendar, and away it goes.
Yeah, that's fair. And then that way you automate kind of vacation mode and
exactly
do all that. Yeah, okay. So that maybe scratch that one off your list then, Frenck.
Done. Okay, but this is more kind of integration level, right? That is not really add-on level. Add-ons like generally delivered. This is a thing that people often get misconcepted by. Like integrations actually is how Home Assistant integrates with a device or a service online. Devices and services is the thing that powers Home Assistant. But add-ons actually provide services for that.
Right.
So like a database server would be an add-on, but integrating with a database server would be an integration in Home Assistant.
Right.
So integrating with your calendar in this case, that would not be an add-on. That would be an integration.
An integration. Yeah. So I think the only other things I can think of are like more SAML based, like just around the login, right? More SAML based or LDAP, that kind of stuff, right? So
some YubiKey support or something. I love my YubiKey.
That would actually be fantastic. I live by my YubiKey. And if for listeners, if you're not familiar with what a YubiKey is a specific brand of it, but just a secure hardware secure token. Essentially, what it is instead of people, you might be familiar with a one-time password where you start, you type in your 6 random characters that change every 30 seconds or something like that. That's specifically a time-based one-time password. YubiKey basically kind of, it's that second factor of what you have. So instead of you sitting there, I have this token generator that generates a token. Instead of that, you have a hardware token where you just press it and it just fills it in for you. And it is fantastic.
Yeah, I use it for all kinds of stuff. Logging into servers, my Gmail, Facebook, whatever. I use it everywhere. I can use it two-factor authentication, actually.
Yeah, and actually even Apple has started improving a lot of their YubiKey support. And its hardware security token support. So, or U2F is the industry generic term for it. But yeah, so even because before you weren't able to use it on like captive portals and like that kind of stuff. Now you can actually hit the button and it'll actually log into like Google or whatever.
Yeah, that would be.
How about a local password manager instead of like a LastPass, like an add-on that? See, this is why, like everything I think of.
Already done. I have built the Bitwarden add-on, which allows you to run Bitwarden locally, and it's actually pretty nice. If you're looking for a local password manager, I can definitely recommend Bitwarden as a local password manager. And there's a fork of the Bitwarden server, which is called Bitwarden RS, which is what the add-on implements, which is a Rust version of the server, which mimics the whole API. It just is lighter. Much lighter. You do not need a Microsoft MySQL, a Microsoft SQL database server, for example. It uses SQLite in the background. So that one is a lot lighter, and that's what's used in the add-on and runs perfectly fine on a Raspberry Pi, for example.
That's cool. Yeah, I've never seen Bitwarden RS, but I've seen Bitwarden.
Yeah, you can just use the Bitwarden apps and stuff, and Bitwarden RS is just running on the add-on. You do not notice it, actually.
That is very cool.
It works really well. It was requested, so I actually thought, okay, let's go, let's try, and I built it, and it's kind of nice actually in the end.
Yeah.
So the thing that I love the most from all the things I have added is actually the VS Code add-on. I think the Visual Studio Code add-on. Every time I post something of it, like the whole community goes wild, and I think the add-on and the extension made by Case, like being able to edit your YAML files from the browser. Like full Visual Studio Code experience from the HA front end. I think that one is the greatest we have at this point. I have at this point. That one is just really, really, really nice. But guess you guys are missing out at that one since you're not like.
Well, I have VS Code and I have the Home Assistant extension, but no hassle iOS. That means I don't have to use that extension.
Yeah, I'm just doing straight up Atom and GitHub. Essentially.
You should move to VS Code for sure if you're on Atom.
Yeah.
And use the extension. Absolutely. Case did an amazing job. And it's such a nice thing. And add the MDI extension for the MDI icon, so it will even complete the icons and can browse through a list and add it. It's really, if you're still on Atom, you're a bit stuck there. Sorry, mate.
It's
get out of it.
I know. You know what it is. It's the whole like. Okay, so it's funny. I've actually got VS Code downloaded and installed on like 2 of my laptops. I've never actually done anything with it because I don't like, even personally, like I don't code a ton. I don't do any of that stuff. And if I had to do any of that stuff, it's just quick and whatever. So I do need to play with it. I've been wanting to sit down and play with it because I've seen the extension that you built. Right. And I've seen some of the other stuff that's in VS Code as well. And it sounds like everybody's kind of moving to VS Code. But it's just, I just haven't done it. I need to do it.
And the add-on is amazing. And the extension made by Case is just finishing it off.
Yeah.
I've been wanting the extension for so long. And I've talked to Paulus about it so many times. And we put out so many tweets. And eventually Case stood up and Case made it. And then the add-on was completed as well. And
that's awesome.
That thing is that's my favorite one, actually.
All right. Holiday season, this is my goal.
Let's do it. And if you need help, you know where to find me, right?
Done.
Okay.
All right. Well, Frenck, thank you so much for taking the time, and thank you for starting to use Home Assistant. Thank you for all your apps that you've contributed. Thank you for I couldn't even think of an app to get you to work on next year for me. So you've obviously done too many apps. So
yeah.
Okay. Take next year off. And come back to us next year, and we'll find out what we can get working for you. But yeah, thank you so much. We appreciate you coming on.
Well, thank you for having me. I enjoy these moments. So
that's
just cool. You guys do an amazing job. and I'm looking forward what you guys are going to bring next year. And well, to be honest, I hope you guys could put in a couple of more Spotlight episodes.
We've been hoping that
us
too.
too.
So yeah, it's but I think that is on our New Year's resolutions, and
I'm going to remind you guys.
that's right. Do it. Keep us honest.
yeah.
Please do
Keep
it.
us honest. Thank you
Merry
again.
Christmas, guys.
Yep, and a happy New Year.
And a happy new decade.
That's right. Happy new decade. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
If you want to share your Home Assistant journey or come on as a guest, reach out to us at feedback@hasspodcast.io. That's HASS podcast.io.
The Home Assistant podcast is hosted by Phil Hawthorne and myself, Rohan Karamandi. For links to topics that we discussed today, check out our show notes on hasspodcast.io.